Okay, so the first topic I want to talk about today is just in general, give a background of climate science, basic info, what my background in it is, and why I have the passion for it that I do. So my background, I work for the Aerospace Corporation, and basically what we are is a unbiased third party that vets NASA, NOAA, and other government organizations to make sure that they are able to fulfill the needs of the American people. And basically, what the main projects that I work on are for NASA. I work on SWOT, which stands for Surface Water and Ocean Topography. Basically, what it will do, it's scheduled to launch in 2022, and what it will do is measure water levels, monitor droughts, water reservoir storage, the changes in that, like how much we have, how much we're losing, how much we're gaining, depending on, and making flood forecasts. This is really important because it helps us have a better understanding of the climate and of our, water security in the future and how we can try and plan for that. And we're able to see that from space through these types of programs. And also what it will do is help increase the understanding of how climate changes are affecting those water supplies. Also, another project that I do a lot of work with is Argos 4, which is a satellite system that's been up for about 40 years. It's mostly with NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, as well as some other international organizations, both in Europe and Asia. And what it does is it monitors tagged wildlife for migration patterns, and it collects ocean data. So things like tagging sharks, seals, whales, different migratory species of oceanic life. And that way we have a better idea of how, we can measure things like temperature, water pressure, surface chlorophyll, current intensities, polluter identification, so we can find out about oil spills and other pollutants more quickly. And what this does is this gives us an idea of how migration patterns change based on changes in the climate. And this is really exciting from a wildlife standpoint, from conservation standpoint, and it's also really exciting because it's actually something that the military needs to know when it comes to shipping patterns, because they want to make sure that they're not going, through schools of whales. So so the Air Force actually has a piece in it too. And so that's my general background. To understand the issue, so the issue is that the climate is changing and global temperatures are going up. I'll have links in the description for everything that I'm talking about, as always, so be sure to check those out if you want to do further research. But basically, according to NASA, the climate global average has increased by about 2 degrees Fahrenheit since 1880. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but when we consider that it barely increased a degree for thousands of years before that, it's something we really need to think about. Also, we measure things like the other ways we know that this is an issue is Arctic ice minimum. So the Arctic ice minimum is essentially each year, specifically they measure it in September. We go and measure how low, the lowest that the Arctic ice sheets are. And we've seen that since 1980 that it's decreased by about 12% per decade, which is pretty startling. And also, I know that there's a lot of people that, may say, well, this is inconclusive. This is not something that, everyone agrees on, but 97% of actively published climate scientists agree that human activities are the cause. And they say that with a 95% certainty. So this is not just a hunch. This is something that they're very, very confident of. Climate change is generally caused by the accumulation of greenhouse gases that trap heat within our atmosphere. So essentially, these greenhouse gases, they are thicker than the air that we normally breathe, and it essentially creates a effect where it's almost like you have a thermal blanket that holds heat in when it's radiating back up from the earth, and that's what ends up warming the globe from a very general stance. The primary one of those greenhouse gases is carbon dioxide, and for about 800,000 years, because that's about as far back as they've measured on this, the concentration of carbon dioxide had not gone above 300 parts per million. Now, while I'm sure not everyone is familiar with this as a measurement, to give you an idea, it's currently above 400 parts per million. It crossed that 300 parts per million line in 1950 after not doing that for almost a million years. So this is definitely not a normal pattern, as some would say. And I know another really common one that you'll hear is, but this is the sun. And NASA has done a really good job because we have a lot of satellites and other tools to measure the changes in global temperatures, both on the surface of the Earth, in the atmosphere, in the different levels of the Earth's atmosphere, and we're able to then rule out different possibilities, or at least with a very high certainty. So when people say this is caused by the sun and it's a normal cycle, well, the issue with that claim is that global temperatures have increased the most sharply since 1980. And during that time, the solar energy that has reached our atmosphere has decreased consistently. So basically, we have satellites that are measuring the solar energy that is coming to the Earth. And we've seen that that has gone down since the 1980s, almost exclusively, while inversely, the global temperature has risen at even faster rate than the solar energy has gone down. And that's really the issue. So we know that that's most likely not the case. If the sun were responsible, we should have seen cooling if that were the main cause. And like I said, these satellites are in, low Earth orbit, so LEO, or geostationary, so geo satellites. And that's how we know. And this is why it's really important to invest as a country and just as people around the world to invest in research so that we have a better idea of how these things work and how our world is changing and what we can do to, make it better. As far as and then the other effects that we have that we're seeing right now are increased droughts due to higher temperatures accelerating the water cycle. Essentially because of having higher temperatures. This means that water that does come, that either is in the form of ice on Earth or is, actually running water, is going to evaporate faster. And then this is going to bring more water up into the atmosphere, which is then going to increase the water cycle, which causes more lightning activity. And it will also cause more extreme rainstorms when we have them. This is this is considered a leading increase of the intense rainfalls that we see in the tropics and the extended droughts that we see in arid regions. I live in outside of Los Angeles, California, and so I'm not up in the Bay Area right now. But as we can see right now, we have a lot of wildfires going on in the northwestern part of the United States, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, this is caused by climate change," and there's conflicting ideas on whether or not that is. However, whether or not we can prove conclusively that it is, we can say that it definitely is making it, it's setting the plane for it to be far worse when it does happen. Because the different things that climate change hurts for normal people are those wildfires because of drier conditions and higher amounts of lightning strikes to light those fires. Energy security is another issue because we need water for not just for drinking, but we also need water for cooling the electricity pumps and plants. So it's actually a pretty big risk to our energy sectors and agriculture because of increased prices when production decreases in the U.S. And outside of the U.S., you have increased food insecurity globally, which is a much bigger issue that we need to really worry about, especially as we become more globalized and we rely more on the global economy. We want to make sure that everyone's, able to benefit from the industries that we all have. And in California right now, fires have already burned over 1 million acres. And this started around August 15th. So this has only been a month. And that's more than happened in the entire year of 2018. And we also had a record temperature of 130 degrees Fahrenheit in Death Valley on August 16th, so around that same time. And we had over 12,000 lightning strikes hit that week, which started over 600 fires. So really big issue. And actually, the 130-degree Death Valley, there is a contention that that's not quite the record. There was an 134-degree day supposedly in the late 1800s. However, because that's not modern measurement, most people still consider the 130 just for that. And as a fun fact, me and my girlfriend actually went and hiked Mount Langley, which is a 14,000 foot peak over near Lone Pine, California, which is over near Death Valley. And when we were driving back that weekend on the 16th or 17th, one of those two, it was 9 p.m. driving through Mojave, and it was like 115 degrees. So, and it literally, you cracked the windows, and it felt you could smell smoke, and it felt like exhaust coming out of a car, going 70 miles an hour. So it's definitely something we all need to worry about, and this is just a good intro into that. If you enjoyed this clip, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and check out the full live version of the Wealth for 99 podcast, where we talk finance, economics, and public policy from a working class perspective. We'll see you there.